Now, I think it's important for me to go ahead and say that I've never believed in supernatural or urban legends. I've found it hard to believe that most of them really exist, but a certain set of events has made me think otherwise. I have always loved to hunt. It's been one of my favorite activities since I was younger. When I got the news of my grandfather's death, I was sad and I got on a plane and flew to Arizona as quickly as I could. I was then informed that the cause of death was apparently self-inflicted. It threw me off because I remember my grandfather being a very happy-go-lucky person. I arrived in a small town in Arizona, a little ways from Navajo country, and I attended the funeral. It was a small funeral, about 5 to 7 people, and consisted of family and friends that I recognized. I knew everyone except for one person. It was a man who was tall and dark, with eyes that had a certain otherworldly hunger to them. We made eye contact, and I felt him looking into my soul. He then whispered the words, "Let me help you." I blinked and the man was gone. I was returned to reality by my mother calling out my name, but I didn't see her. I followed the sound of her voice to a room where a man at a desk was reading what I assumed to be my grandfather's will. My mother got $100,000 and my grandfather's 2013 Nissan Altima. The benefits of being an only child, I guess. We knew my grandfather was a well-off man, but we never knew how well off, and the surprises didn't stop there. I was caught off guard when I was named the new owner of my grandfather's luxurious log cabin in Hunters Creek. After the reading of my grandfather's will, I soon called and I quit my job, and I was happy to start my new life away from the city in Arizona. Moving there wasn't really a hassle. I didn't have that much stuff, and the cabin was furnished with nicer furniture than I had ever seen before. I walked up to the bedroom and was overtaken by the beauty of it. It had a king bed with a walkout balcony separated by sliding glass doors. The sight from the balcony was absolutely breathtaking. I could see Hunters Creek and the border of the forest edge. I knew I would love my new life here in Arizona after I saw that view. At 3:30 a.m., I was awoken by the most vivid dream I had experienced. No, it wasn't a dream. It was a nightmare. It was almost as if I was actually there. I now know that I was looking through the eyes of someone or something. It started in the forest, pacing around. I would say about 300 feet from my cabin. I started moving towards it, stepping through the steep brush, and up to a tree to get to the area, right to where it could see me sleep. I then woke up terrified. I began seeing branches shifting in the trees as the wind howled a sinister cry. I picked up my phone and used the flashlight to flash it in the last direction I saw movement. Nothing. I sighed. I must be imagining things because of the nightmare I just had. What scared me about the dream was how it felt so real. I stayed awake, processing what had just happened. I don't know when, but I eventually fell back asleep. I woke up at around 8 a.m. in the morning, remembering what had happened. I don't know why, but I laughed at myself, because at the time, I thought I was getting worked up over nothing. I should have just left then, but I stayed. Not understanding how weird what had just happened was. The day was a blast. I swam, fished, and hiked a little bit, and had a giant fish fry that night. After stuffing my face with trout, I walked out to my balcony and soaked up the beauty of the land. After watching the sunset, I decided to call it a day. As soon as I got to my bed, I instantly thought about what happened the night before. Now that it was dark and quiet, I felt afraid, and I tried, but I couldn't fall asleep even though I was tired. Around 1, I was beginning to fade out, but I got hit with an overwhelming amount of dread, and I was instantly wide awake. I popped out of bed with my flashlight and a baseball bat. Something was clawing at my door. It was followed by one of the worst sounds I've ever heard in my life. It sounded like a woman screaming, like she was getting murdered, combined with this low, demonic growl. God, it scared the absolute crap out of me. Instead of trying to pursue the noise, I decided to stay in my room, with the door locked, hiding in my closet. As if things couldn't get worse, I started to hear something or someone fiddling with the door downstairs. I remembered last night and the dream that I had, and I thought to myself that this was going to be it. I guess that I passed out from fear because when I opened my eyes, it was morning. After the previous night's events, I decided that I needed to get some sort of defense, so I was going to get a gun. I got dressed and went about my morning routine and headed out the door. When I did, I noticed huge gashes left right on my cabin door. I tried not to think too much about it, and I continued into town. I arrived at the gun store and purchased a 12-gauge shotgun and some buck rounds. The cashier then said to me, "I noticed that you moved into the cabin around Hunter's Creek. The Navajo speak ill about that land. They say stuff out of the ordinary goes on out there. Everyone who goes hunting up that way goes missing, later only to be found mangled in inhuman ways." I told him that I had inherited it from my granddad, and then his face fell, showing sadness. He replied, "I knew your granddaddy, son. We used to work together. We were really good friends before he just got up and left one day. He didn't tell me where he was going. He just handed in his notice and he left. He was acting extremely strange beforehand, talking about something out there in the woods, a creature who would cook and eat flesh. He said that he could smell the burning meat on a night, and then he would have horrible dreams. He started sleepwalking, and we would find him in random places out in the woods. He was an old man, and so we just assumed the stress of those Navajo stories were taking its toll. So, no one really batted an eyelid when he left. We just assumed that he had called it quits and retired. He then pulled out a slip of paper and he slid it over to me. "We found this when we found his body." The note read, "I wish to apologize to who may find me, but you must know This was for the greater good. Every word, every whisper, every single ounce of fear we create for it, it grows. If it grows, it will soon walk the earth. It must not walk this earth. It is in my head, and I can't unsee what I saw that night in the woods. With my death, it must find a new victim. It will no longer be me. However, if it happens to be you that he seeks out next, please don't make the mistake of others. What does he mean by it? I asked in a panicked, frantic voice. He means the skinwalker, son. I know you city folk don't believe in this kind of stuff, but please hear my words. Get out of that cabin while you still can. And with that, I took my newly purchased gun and shotgun shells and headed back to the house to ponder about what I had just heard. I want to say that I believed him. I want to say that I moved out as quick as I could, but I didn't. I didn't believe what the old man at the gun store was talking about, and I foolishly dismissed it. I wish I did, because night 2 was the worst and last night of my life. I woke up again at around 3:30 a.m. to walk downstairs and get a glass of water. I noticed how quiet it was in the night. Usually, there would be insects and frogs making noises, but this night was very quiet. That was when I heard it faintly, but close outside my cabin. I'll try my best to recount what happened. It sounded like the bleat of a goat and the yowl of a wild cat coming together to seem some broken in form. Quiet at first, it was accompanied by the clacking and scraping sound, getting closer and closer to my front door. I ducked under a window and focused my eyes to a figure illuminated by the moonlight hiding behind my car. What I saw next has been burned into my mind's eye, and I will never forget it. In the light, long, rotted fingers with thick black claws curled the back of my car and proceeded to reveal a thing that was about 6 feet tall, with long deer-like legs, too skinny to support it, that ended with small hooves. They seemed to float above the ground. The body looked semi-human, but a skeleton draped with rotted flesh, patches of mangled fur, and ribs protruding from its chest said otherwise. The smell was wretched, and I wanted to look away, but I was paralyzed with fear. I kept staring at the long, curled antlers, the wrapped and twisted body, and the long arms that hung loosely, with front claws that scraped the ground. But mostly, the disturbing contorted mix of human and animal intertwined to make a face so haunting. I will remember vividly, on my dying day, I'm sure of it. The eyes locked on me, with its empty, rotted sockets meeting my eyes. And then I heard it quietly, but all around me in my head. The horrid, howled, mangled words. "Let me help you." Instantly, my front door shot open, and with that, I rushed back to my room, locking the door behind. I am now held up in my room, with that thing outside my door, clawing, scraping, and laughing in that sinister and deep laugh, repeating the same phrase over and over and over again. Let me help you. It's breaking down my door. I don't have much time left. I've decided to post this in the last moments I have left on this earth, in the hope that somebody will be able to stop this thing. If you're reading this, please send help.